Every good movie is a window, a lens that you can peer into to enter into another world. But every great movie is a mirror, a looking glass that lets you see your own life reflected in it. Hi, my name's Ben, I'm a Filipino American, and my favorite movie of all time is a movie that came out just last year called Everything Everywhere All at Once. Asian people everywhere love Everything Everywhere All at Once. Directed by the Daniels, Kwan and Scheinert, and starring Michelle Yeoh, Ke Huy Quan, Stephanie Hsu, and Jamie Lee Curtis, Everything Everywhere is everything you've heard people say about it before. It's a crazy window. A window that immerses you in a world of infinitely wacky multiverses, wonderfully insane martial arts, and black hole nihilism bagels. A world where butt plugs give you superpowers, fanny packs are as deadly as nunchucks, and googly eyes save lives. And somehow make you cry. But it's also a really beautiful mirror. A mirror that thoughtfully reflects the Asian American experience by anchoring all of its chaos in the heartwarming story of an Asian American family. Evelyn Wang, Waymond Wang, and Joy Wang. This is a family that, well, looks like so many other Asian American families. A family that struggles with acceptance. A family that speaks 3 languages at home.
AAPI 起来了 Joy's here. Go set the table. He must be hungry. 我去开门
But somehow still almost never knows the right thing to say.
We talk later.
And just really sucks at communicating sometimes.
You are getting fat.
A family that looks for meaning, love, and joy in an ever-expanding, ever-shrinking world. Basically, it's safe to say that Everything Everywhere marks a really special watershed moment for fresh, inventive Asian American storytelling in the middle of this period where Asian American representation in Hollywood has already been moving in a positive direction. This movie was a moment that dazzled general audiences and critics, but hit especially hard for the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. And the reason we were hit so hard comes down to the core, the foundation, the beating heart and shining soul of this movie, the Wang family. This is why Asians everywhere love Everything Everywhere All at Once. Let's start by talking about Evelyn Wang. Evelyn is a complicated person. When we first meet her, she's difficult. She's stubborn, she's mean to her husband, insensitive to her daughter.
I only cook enough food for 3 people. Now I have to cook more.
She's overwhelmed. But under all that difficultness, she's also just trying her best to file her taxes and run her business, to provide for herself and her family, to survive in a soul-crushing world. In other words, she's a mother. The Daniels use Evelyn's personality traits to reflect the sort of cold, sometimes callous attitudes that we see in so many of our own immigrant mothers. Those tough traits are a really particular, but also really common part of the immigrant experience. The hardened personalities, world weariness, and unintentional insensitivity of first-generation immigrant parents who are wise to the wicked ways of the world, but aren't always in tune with the ways the world is changing around them. It's only once Evelyn is persuaded into acting with empathy that she learns that the simplest act of kindness or an expression of heartfelt love can overcome surface-level differences and bring healing to generational wounds, if only we have the courage to reach for it. And obviously, Evelyn is played by the iconic Michelle Yeoh. I mean, what can I say about Michelle Yeoh that hasn't been said already? We've all seen her before, as the intimidating, no-nonsense Asian mom.
You will never be enough.
We've seen her as the martial arts master. We've seen her as the cool, quick-witted Bond girl. But we've never seen her as a sad, overwhelmed immigrant mother. We've never seen her as a rude, done-with-your-nonsense laundromat owner. We've never seen her as an animated kids drawing, a piñata person, or a lesbian with hot dog fingers, and hyperdexterous feet. Of course, Michelle brings all the best parts of her previous performances into this one, and blends them into something new. Her best performance yet. Michelle has said that playing Evelyn was so special to her because it gave her the chance to finally demonstrate everything she's capable of.
To be funny, to be real, to be sad. Finally, somebody understood that I can do all these things.
For her, this role was a chance to shine in a new way and really surprise the world, which she absolutely did. But nobody surprised the world with their performance in this movie, quite like Waymond Wang. Brought to life by the wonderful Ke Huy Quan, Waymond is one of the most empathetic and soul-stirring characters I've ever seen in a movie. But the way that the character conveys the movie's themes about empathy and acceptance, that's all been talked about already, and by much better writers than me. More than that, I want to talk about why, to so many AAPI audience members, Key's performance as Waymond goes beyond just being a beautiful, emotional character. See, watching him act his fanny pack off in every second of this movie, first as a classic dorky Asian dad,
Hi, Becky. Thank you for coming. Please call me Waymond.
who, much like Evelyn, is so familiar to so many of us with immigrant parents.
哇，这个电梯好快哦。
Then, as a hardcore action hero, and eventually as a suave, sexy romantic a la Tony Leung in the Wong Kar-wai verse. It brings to mind this one idea that you've probably heard of before if you've ever taken an Asian American studies class in college, and that is that Asian men have historically been portrayed by Hollywood in shallow and denigrating stereotypical ways, in stories developed by non-Asians, stories of our people, written not by our people or for our people, either as desexualized caricatures of quote-unquote Oriental men,
Very clever dinner.
or as hollow husks of fathers, sons, brothers, friends. And too many times to count, as the unimportant supporting cast, or even worse, the empty punching bags, usually for white characters. But not here. Here, in Waymond, we got to see a character, a fully realized Asian American man, written with love and sincerity and thoughtfulness. A dynamic character, created and performed with that beautiful, wide-eyed compassion and sweetness that only Ke Huy Quan could have brought to the role. And so, Waymond, every single version of him, speaks to all of our souls in more ways than one, because he looks like our dads, our uncles, our brothers, our sons. A man who leads with kindness despite his hurting, who's compassionate and supportive without seeming needlessly submissive or pathetic. A cool and silly, tender and tough, truly three-dimensional Asian guy for us to aspire to. Yeah, Ke definitely cemented himself as one of the greats with this performance. For all these reasons and more, Waymond just hit different. But, with all that said, I gotta be real here, there's no character in this amazing everything bagel of a movie who moved me, made me feel, changed my life, more than Joy Wang. Or Jobu Tupaki. Joy is pretty cool. Joy Wang, and of course Jobu Tupaki, just captures so much of what it looks like, what it sounds like.
I'm just telling you now in case my mom says something dumb like you're fat or whatever.
What it feels like to be a young Asian American. So of course she's the character that I, and so many others like me, identified with the most. And to top off this phenomenal family trio, Joy is brought to life by Stephanie Hsu, who slays so hard in this role, it's honestly sorta offensive. Like, she just absolutely eats with this performance, and it's not fair to the rest of us. Seriously, Stephanie in this movie delivers a once-in-a-generation performance that's been so much more slept on by, like, a lot of the critics and even a surprising amount of the general public than it should have been, especially compared to the love and attention her equally talented co-stars got. Stephanie Hsu fully put 10 toes on the ground and gave the world a character that I promise you is destined to be remembered and celebrated for generations. Joy's story revolves around the acceptance and the love she wants so badly from her mom. Of course, in a lot of ways, this is just like the way pretty much all kids feel the need to make their parents happy. But it's especially common for young AAPI kids in particular to be burdened with extra high expectations for their educations, their careers, their talents, and their general success from their entire extended families. Weighed down by all these extra layers of pressure, plus cultural stigmas surrounding emotional vulnerability and mental health, young AAPIs like Joy usually suffer in silence. And of course, on top of that, Joy is queer. She's in a relationship with Becky, played by the awesome Tally Medell, who does an amazing job with really limited screen time.
What did he say?
And when we first meet them, their relationship clearly isn't fully accepted by Joy's mom, or her grandfather, Gong Gong, played by living cinematic legend James Hong. So, Joy can't help but feel like her relationship, her decisions, her whole self just isn't welcome at home. Not just because Evelyn and Gong Gong are from a different generation, but because the AAPI community has historically been made up of immigrant populations, many of whom come from deeply rooted religious traditions and values, which means that families throughout the AAPI community tend to be pretty conservative. Put all these qualities together, and you start to see why so many kids of AAPI immigrants are pushed toward perfection, taught to stick with tradition rather than embrace change, and raised to put family first above everything, because their parents have a deep-seated fear that their kids won't make it in this soul-crushing world if they choose to live any other way. And because, after all, perfection, not rocking the boat, fitting into the status quo, is what parents needed to strive for in order to get by in this country. But the disconnect with parents like these is that their kids, their American kids, aren't just here to get by. We're here to make noise. We aren't just here to survive, we're here to live. And again, this isn't just a problem with mom or dad. For countless AAPI kids who have a gong or a lola or an auntie or uncle like that, it can feel like a never-ending struggle, constantly caught between wanting to be kind to the older generation and wanting to be kind to ourselves. The tiger parent is a stereotype, but of course, most stereotypes are based in reality. And for countless AAPI kids, Joy's experience is just real. Then, on the other side of the coin, Jobu Tupaki's story revolves around the everything bagel. Jobu doesn't see any value in living her life stretched thin across an infinite multiverse that she doesn't care about, and that doesn't seem to care about her. And so she created the bagel because she thought it was her only way out, her only way to escape. The bagel is a metaphor for deep depression. And over the course of the movie, Evelyn realizes it's her mission to save her daughter from that suffering, to rescue her from depression, and bring back joy from the clutches of Jobu Tupaki. At first, Evelyn thinks the solution is violence. Jobu has the power of the entire multiverse at her fingertips, so it seems to make sense that the only way to beat her would be by beating her in a fight. But when Evelyn tries to fight her, it's clear that combat and aggression won't do anything to save Joy. So eventually, Evelyn tries to make things right by finally telling Gong Gong the truth about Joy and Becky, and declaring her acceptance of their relationship, like Joy had been wanting all along. But after years of constant disappointment, after all of Joy's pent-up hurting, she isn't ready to accept her mom's attempt at redemption. Sure, in a less sensitive or emotionally intelligent movie, maybe these solutions would have worked. Maybe Evelyn would just be able to kung fu kick Joy's pain away. Or maybe Joy would be pulled out of her depressive state instantly after Evelyn decided to accept her relationship with Becky. But in this movie, these things sadly just aren't enough for Joy. Just like for a lot of AAPI kids dealing with similar suffering, Joy's been inflicted with deep generational trauma. Trauma that won't be healed by one fistfight or one act of selflessness. All she wants now is freedom. Freedom to part ways with a mom who causes her so much pain and go down her own path.
Just let me go.
It's powerful that, in the end, it's Evelyn who chooses to let go.
Okay.
To give her daughter the freedom to turn away and leave her family, the same way she wanted that freedom when she left her family for Waymond. It's Evelyn who chooses to accept that sometimes you have to let go of people, even when they're the people you love most in the whole world. But then, Evelyn turns around.
Wait.
And finally, she finds the answer. She saves her Joy from infinite nothingness with a reminder. A reminder that through all the layers of her stubbornness, insensitivity, and crushing parental expectations, there is unconditional love. There is a desire, undeniable and unstoppable, to be together, to be a family. And she communicates it in the only way she knows how. She uses the exact same insensitive words that broke Joy's heart in the opening scene.
You are getting fat.
To heal her heart in this moment.
You are getting fat.
By proving that those words come from a place of deep love. This is the moment in this movie that shattered so many AAPI kids who saw themselves in Joy. It says something that seeing this relationship, seeing this healing, seeing this processing of generational trauma convinced some kids to reach out to their parents and start to process real generational trauma for real families in the real world. And it's powerful that in the end, it's Joy who chooses to turn back and reach out. It's Joy who chooses to take her mother's hand. It's Joy who chooses to accept love, in spite of the loneliness, the overwhelmingness, and all the noise. Because maybe what matters is choosing. Choosing to fight for love. Choosing to live with each other and for each other. And maybe if we can do that, we can survive this life. Just barely survive, but survive. The Wang family embodies an image that Asian Americans have been craving for as long as we've been seeing movies and shows that fail to portray us as we really are. As happy, sad, silly, serious, heroes, villains, movie stars, struggling parents, romantically sexy, and rawly emotional. And just as dynamic, real, whole human beings. So it's no wonder this movie was such a moment for us. Because it's more than just a good story about an Asian American family, it's a great story about an Asian American family. Don't forget, a good story is a window, but a great story is a mirror, a looking glass that lets you see your own life reflected in it. Hi, my name is Ben. I'm a Filipino American, and I'm filming this on my phone, and I'm using the Voice Memos app on my sister's phone as a mic. Happy AAPI Heritage Month. My favorite movie of all time is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Because I've genuinely never seen a movie that reflected myself, my family and friends, or my feelings so perfectly, or so tear-jerkingly. I did a lot of crying just writing the script. I've been through the gauntlet of my mom opening and operating her own small businesses with all the stress and work and overwhelmness that comes with it. Right, Mama?
I know, I'm busy.
Right. And I know what it's like to have a dad who's really sweet and kind, even though it's a little goofy sometimes. That's good. And just like so many AAPI kids, I get how it can feel to be lost in all the noise of this really rough world that doesn't really seem to care about us all the time. Still, to be fair, even though Joy is the character I identified most with in this movie, I've actually been incredibly privileged. In my own life, I've lived in a really loving home, with a loving, accepting, and supportive family, which I gotta be thankful for. Of course, like every Asian American family, we have our everyday struggles. And like every Asian American person, I've had my own personal struggles. Lots of failures and mistakes I've made, big and small. Plus, rejections I've faced and just like hurts I've gone through. And those can be pretty hard. But no matter how hard any individual struggle might be, this movie felt, at least to me, like a call. A call to remember that we're here. In this life, in this universe, we're here. And while we're here, we can choose to love. We can choose to fight for love. We can choose to live with each other and for each other. I think this movie is a call to all people, but especially to all of us in the AAPI community, to choose to go through it together. And that's why Asians everywhere love Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did that make any sense?
Sorry. What did you say?